there are times when having a good, whoops-a-daisy, selection of lenses pays dividends. I've dropped down from where I was last weekend, found this little waterfall, and I've spent 20 minutes trying to set up a composition with the 17-55, and it's not working. So I've swapped out to 10-20. Very careful because it's very wet and very slippery. And I'm using this fall coming in, woohoo, top right hand side of the image, and then this lovely, it's like a train on a dress. It's wonderful. And there's a little ledge, oops, I really haven't got my balance here, where the water's dropping down as well, like a mini fall. I'm excluding this white patch because it's not moving fast enough, I don't think, to actually create a swirl. It's more just going to be a blob. But where I want to stand is here. There's a bird poop, and it's a fresh bird poop. And I have the obligatory leaf. I didn't put it there, honest. I've got a nice bank of greenery, nice tree coming, or tree root coming out there. So I think that works quite well. But it took 10-15 minutes of faffing around with the 17-55 to realise actually it didn't work. Get the 10-20 out, then it all kind of came together. From here, I am going to walk back up to the car. This is continuing from last weekend. I'm still in Waterfall Woods. I'm going to walk back up to the car. I'm going to drive down to the lower car park and then walk from the lower car park up. I'm guessing I'm possibly about halfway. I might not be, but it seems pointless to walk all the way to the bottom just to walk all the way to the top. So I'm going to do it in 2 halves. And I can have some lunch while I'm up there. So I'm going to get the camera set up and we're going to have a go at this shot. And I'm going to try not to tread in the bird poop. Welcome back as well, yes. As I say, continuing from last weekend, I'm hoping this is about halfway. Hints and tips continued. Everywhere you look, there's waterfalls. Move around. I've said before, don't put your tripod down initially. Wander around, go high, go low, go portrait, go landscape, find your composition, take your image, assess it, check your edges, move position. Now I started off out here, where the bird poop is, shooting landscape orientation. But there was just something not quite right. So I've moved literally 2 paces to my right and found a much nicer composition. I'm getting more of the... Can I spin you around and show you? Yeah, why not? So as I was saying before I decided to turn you around, I was stood down here where the bird poop is, which you can just about see on there, shooting essentially that. But it just wasn't quite happy with it. So I've literally moved 2 foot, and that is a much nicer composition. The fall comes in top right hand corner of the image and comes out bottom left hand corner. I'm getting this, where are we? This little bit here in, and I'm getting some lovely streakiness. I'm at about 1/4 of a second. Again, just with the polarizer on, and the polarizer is darkening the rocks, so the water really pops out. It also enabled me to get more of this greenery in, and more of the greenery up the top. Not a lot, but just a little bit to give it some context. Context even. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with that. This place is just blowing my mind. I've asked a couple of people if I'm about halfway, and they said, no, actually you're nearly at the bottom. So I will possibly just keep going. I'm that close to the bottom apparently that I might as well do. I've just bumped into some gents who know me as well, which is quite embarrassing. Hi there guys, if you're watching this, lovely to meet you all. Hope you had a good rest of the day. They were from Bristol and Newport and somewhere else, I can't remember. I'm terrible with memory. It's always nice to meet people, I think, who know me, but I'm never sure if it's good or bad. This fall is wonderful. Now, they were just telling me that these are tiddlers compared with, I think it's the 4 Waterfalls walk, which I wasn't going to do. I might have to. I've come over to the right-hand side of this fall. The immediate issue with this side is there's a dead tree. It's actually got berries on it, but it is kind of bark and no leaves. That kind of intrudes, excuse me, onto the fall. But I like the little fall at the front. That kind of leads you back in. And the water is making some wonderful movement as it comes down over the rocks here onto that little fall. Some wonderful shapes. And the sun's just popped its head out, which isn't going to do this place any favours. But as you can see, there's people around, so I'm not too worried at the moment about going over the other side. I will go over there, but for now, I'm just going to stay around here. It is slipperier than a slippy thing. I'm guessing when this is in full spate, you can't actually walk where I'm walking. That would be a proper sight. I did start off down here. Where are we? To try and get some of this in, as well as the main fall, but there's an awful lot of dry rock on this side, just sort of where my bag is, and it didn't really work. If I could stand in the middle of the water, it might work. In fact, there's a dry rock over here that I might try to get to. Where is it? There. That I might try to get to shoot upstream. Well, much as I think that is an absolutely amazing waterfall, photographically, it's just not doing it for me. Possibly because there is not enough water flowing, which I knew was a risk coming down to the waterfalls because we've not had a huge amount of rain. It's better than I expected. I half expected to get here and find a proper little trickle. Now, according to everyone I've spoken to, I am probably well over halfway, so I am just going to continue down, that's it, and walk back up the road, I think is the name of the game. It'll be tough going, but it will be easier than walking back up this track. I mean, that is a fairly impressive sight, but as I say, just not enough water in it for me. So I'm going to carry on down here. Everywhere you look, there's a waterfall. It's fabulous. Now this, I think, makes a lovely little composition. I spotted this because there was another photographer here, but I was coming down this path anyway. There's actually a really nice little waterfall hiding away in there, but I can't find a way to get to it. Anyway, I digress. I wanted to do something slightly different. We're not getting, let me tilt you down, any streakiness down here. So I wondered if I could get away with using these ferns as foreground that lead into the first waterfall, and from the first waterfall you then go up and round to the second waterfall at the back. Now it is spoilt slightly because this area is very bright, so that's probably going to get a little bit of dodging and burning, reduce the highlights down. But I've had to do some jiggery pokery with focus stacking because I've been shooting in portrait orientation. You can see the camera is in quite a precarious position. Yes. I've shot using these ferns in the foreground, and I've shot one quite high up, so I've got a bit of gap between the water and the ferns, and one slightly lower, so the ferns kind of start touching on that water. Polarizer to full effect to get rid of this bright spot. We have a breeze, so when I was focusing on the ferns, shall I tell you what? I'll turn you around. Hang on, that's better. Oof. When I was focusing on the ferns, I was shooting at ISO 320 to give myself f10, I think it was, a little bit of a faster shutter speed, and if I can just see what my shutter speed ended up at, a 40th of a second, give or take, at f10. Then I focused on the waterfalls themselves, and I dropped the ISO back down to 100, and I was shooting that at, oh, let's have a look, a third of a second, just to get a little bit of motion, but still retain a little bit of the silkiness. I'm not worried about the backfall being in focus, because your eye naturally falls off to there anyway. But I think that's quite nice. Wait and see what happens when I get it on the screen. I've had to put my hat on because it's getting breezy and the hair's going everywhere. It also feels like it's going to rain. It's a bit of a monkey. I'm going to carry on walking. Just at the top of this little stretch, there's a lovely fall, and I'd really like to be on the other side for it, but without wellies, I'm not going to manage it. And I was going to get set up, but then we got invaded by school kids wearing caving hats and bright red outfits and Wellingtons, so I've come downstream a little bit, and I've found a little composition that I really like. I've shot it initially just using polarizer, and I was at f18 and about a quarter of a second, and I quite like it. I've composed to keep the sky out of the image because the sky is bright and yucky and there's no interest up there at all. And I've got a little bit of foreground interest with the water whooshing and leaving those streaks. Now I was on, as I say, about a quarter of a second, but I've decided to have a go with a 10 stop. It's the Lee magnetic 10 stop. So I don't think there's a, sorry, not the Lee magnetic 10 stop, what am I talking about? The fconcept magnetic 10 stop. Don't think there's a colour cast. I've not really used it in these conditions. So I have changed my settings, and I think it came down to f11, ISO 200, and on timer. And I gave it 101 seconds, and I kind of quite like that. Oops. I'll flip you around, show you the composition. Now it is a portrait orientation I'm doing, so we're shooting down here and we've got these in, and right at the bottom of the image I think I've got this little rock in, and you can see the tiddly winks up here, but I quite like that. I actually prefer the shorter exposure time on the water. Now I've been playing. I've done one very long exposure using the 10 stop, and then I've done a shorter exposure using just the polarizer. The polarizer image was f16 and a 1/6 of a second. The 10 stop image was f7.1 and 46.3 seconds. It actually wasn't as long as I thought it was. I'm going to have a go at blending them so that I can create an image where the bit of water leading down to this main fall is silky smooth, and then we have some motion in the water here, and I can do it vice versa. This becomes silky smooth, and we have a little bit of motion in the water leading back to the main falls. I had to do a bit of jiggery pokery because the kids in their bright red tops were getting in the way, and I just need to shoot a frame so I know where it is. That's it. Yeah, so that was kind of a thought that I had, trying to blend a short and a long exposure. Ideally, I'd wanted to do it where I've got 2 layers or 2 levels of waterfalls, but I haven't come across the right one yet. There's still time. if I do, then I'll have a go at that as well. But we'll see what that turns out like. Well, this is a much needed cup of tea. It was 3:30 when I got back here. And let me tell you, it's a long blooming walk up that road. What I would suggest is if you come here and you've got company, then bring 2 cars, leave one in the bottom car park, drive up, leave the other one in the top car park, and then when you walk down, you've got some way of getting back up here rather than Shanks's pony. That was hard going. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the images, and I will see you next Sunday. We may be doing waterfalls again, we may be doing something completely different. Who knows? Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Bye.